fight fans, welcome to Mind for Combat. If you're new to the channel, my name is Rohan, and in this video I'll be breaking down the upcoming middleweight world championship fight between Israel Adesanya as he looks to rematch and once again defeat Italian superstar Marvin Vettori. Now this is a very fun fight, and that's practically because, partially because of the first fight that they had. It was a very close fight. It went to split decision, and Marvin Vettori maintains that he thinks he won that fight. It was a very close fight, and it was split across the board, and I think I personally gave it to Israel Adesanya. I felt like he had more effective moments in that fight. I thought his striking done what it needed to do, but it was close and it could have gone either way. Now, since that fight, obviously, Israel Adesanya has gone on to become a world champion, defended that belt, unsuccessfully fought for the light heavyweight title, but he gave a great showing in that fight despite the loss, and Marvin Vettori's gone on a 5-fight win streak to emerge as a true contender in the middleweight division. Now, I'm a bit upset that we're not seeing the Robert Whittaker rematch first, because I feel like Whittaker's done enough to deserve the shot, but I think it's more of a timing issue rather than him getting what he deserves issue. I think Robert Whittaker will get the shot at the winner of this fight, which is what he deserves, but it's all about timing, I guess, and I think Israel Adesanya wanted to be active and he wanted to fight now, so fair enough. With that said, coming into this fight, Marvin Vettori has a chip on his shoulder, and Uncle Chelson calls him Angry Marvin, and I think that's correct to say. He carries himself very angrily. I don't think he had the best of performances against Kevin Holland. I think he went for the safe route, and I get it. That's what you do at this level. You secure the win. But I felt like after Derek Brunson had already done that, you should go out there and do something a bit different, because what in his current win streak has Marvin Vettori done that Derek Brunson hasn't, that entitled him to the title shot over Derek Brunson? But that's not what this video is about. I'm going to break this fight down and I'll give you guys my pick. So anyway, sorry for that. So, interestingly, coming into this fight, Israel Adesanya is coming off a loss. Marvin Vettori is the one with actual momentum, but I think Israel Adesanya is coming into this fight riding a wave, and that wave is going to be of motivation. He's going to want to come out there and prove his point, and I think that's going to be something that we see in the exchanges, particularly where this fight was close previously, and Marvin Vettori no doubt is going to try to wrestle, which is where Jan Blachowicz won the last fight, and I think Israel Adesanya is going to want to prove a point. So I think that's going to be something to bear witness to as the fight goes on. Coming into this fight, Israel Adesanya is 31 years old. That makes him 2 years older. No, sorry, I think that makes him 4 years older than Italy's Marvin Vettori. So that's going to be interesting. I think they're both in their prime physically and mentally. I don't think it's going to be an issue. They're both young men. Israel Adesanya has a professional record of 20 wins and 1 loss, whereas Marvin Vettori is 17 wins, 4 losses and 1 draw. So they've both been around, they're both experienced, they're both main eventers. Now, obviously, Israel Adesanya has been there in the championship fights a lot more. That may make a bit of a difference, but I don't think it will, to be honest with you. I think it's going to play out rather interestingly. Israel Adesanya stands at 6'4", whereas Marvin Vettori stands at 6 foot, so he has a 4-inch height advantage, and Israel Adesanya has a humongous 80-inch reach, which will give him a nice 6-inch reach advantage over Marvin Vettori's 74-inch reach. So that's going to make a big difference coming in this fight, particularly when you consider how Israel Adesanya is going to want this fight to play out and the type of fight that he's going to choose to have. When we're talking about their styles, Israel Adesanya is a striker. Of course, he's a former multiple-time world champion as a striker. He was 75-5 as a kickboxer and 5-1 as a professional boxer. He fought some of the best fighters in the world, in Australia as a boxer, or New Zealand. I forget which one it is sometimes. But yeah, he fought great fighters as a boxer. Marvin Vettori is most definitely a more well-rounded mixed martial artist. He likes to strike, he likes to wrestle, he can do it all. It's going to be interesting to see how he puts it together coming into this fight. Israel Adesanya's key wins include the likes of Marvin Vettori himself. Of course, he beat Brad Tavares, Derek Brunson. He beat Kelvin Gastelum, Anderson Silva. He's beaten Robert Whittaker. He's beaten Paulo Costa, Yoel Romero. That's a great, incredible resume for a middleweight there. And he had that close fight with Jan Blachowicz, which was a close fight, despite what the judges will have you believe. Marvin Vettori, he himself has a pretty good resume at this point. He's got the wins over the likes of Kevin Holland, which was a great win for him, and Hermansson, that's a great win for him as well. And of course, throughout his career, he's beaten other relevant fighters, but I think those are the 2 wins that really stand out for me. Now, when we're talking about the issues coming into this fight, for Israel Adesanya, it's going to be his wrestling. It's going to get tested in this fight, and we saw from Marvin Vettori's last fight, he has no issue with utilizing his wrestling to win. So that's going to be the first thing that jumps out to me. And also the fact that he's coming off a loss. Is he going to come into this fight too angry, trying to make too much of a point that he kind of loses sight of just getting the win? For Marvin Vettori, I think the biggest issue that we're going to have is the fact that on the feet, I think he's going to be susceptible. I think he's a bit slow. I think he can be a bit plodding. His shots are a bit heavy. I think a striker the caliber of Israel Adesanya can pick that, counter that nicely, and do a lot of damage to him in a fight like that. The X factor for Israel Adesanya is going to be his smooth technical stand-up, and the fact that he has a win over Marvin Vettori. And the X factor for Marvin Vettori is going to be his well-rounded game, and the fact that he's coming into this fight off a 5-fight winning streak with momentum, whereas Israel Adesanya's lost his last fight. With that said, let's get into the prediction. This is going to be a true mixed martial arts fight. This isn't going to be a fight that's settled on defeat, because Marvin Vettori won't let it be that. If it becomes that, then Israel Adesanya wins this fight hands down 10 times out of 10. But as we saw in the last fight, Marvin Vettori was happy to shoot for takedowns on Israel Adesanya because he knew that's the path to least resistance, and that's what he's done with Kevin Holland. I can bet my bottom dollar that that's exactly what's going to come into this fight trying to do. I think Israel Adesanya is going to be able to stop a lot of the takedowns, not all, but a lot of them. On the ground, I think he's going to have done enough work to be able to defend himself intelligently and be able to get back onto his feet and not get demolished on the ground. I don't think he's going to allow himself to stay there, and I think he's going to make Marvin Vettori pay every time he doesn't get a takedown. The real question comes on the feet: does Israel Adesanya do enough damage to keep Marvin Vettori honest and keep him, away from shooting for the takedown foolhardy and, keep his respect? I think he does. I think Israel Adesanya is such a high-level, smart striker that he's going to really make Marvin Vettori pay for his poor shot selection on the feet, which I do think he kind of has. And I think he's going to land some really damaging blows. I think his kicks are going to be good. I think he's going to keep his distance with his teeps. And I think he's going to have a lot of footwork in this fight so that he's not static. The best defense for a wrestler is to have good movement. And let's be honest, Marvin Vettori is not a high school wrestler level wrestler. He's a good wrestler for mixed martial arts. And I think that's something that Israel Adesanya can deal with. The difference with Jan was his size and strength, which Marvin Vettori doesn't really have that much over Israel Adesanya as Jan Blachowicz did. With that said, I think Israel Adesanya is still able to defend enough takedowns that he's able to do damage on the feet. I don't think at any point do we see Israel Adesanya's confidence or will broken, and I think on the feet that he wins this fight. I'm expecting another very close fight, and unfortunately for Marvin Vettori, I don't see it going his way. I think Israel Adesanya is able to keep this fight on the feet for long enough to be able to do his damage, pick his shots and get the win. I'm going with Israel Adesanya for the win to defend his middleweight title and then to set up the big rematch with Robert Whittaker, which I cannot wait for. Robert Whittaker's looked absolutely outstanding since his last loss, and I just can't wait to see him fight for the belt again. Anyways, fight fans, comment below, let me know how you see this one, guys. It's actually a pretty good fight, very close, competitive fight. I don't think Marvin Vettori is going to make it easy for Israel, but I think Israel does have what it takes to win this fight. Anyways, that's my prediction. Comment below, as I said. If you're new here, remember to like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Thank you for watching. I'm Rohan, and this is Mind for Combat.